Welcome to the From the 108 podcast, starring the drunk uncles of White Sox Twitter. He's a Twitter-like whore, an Instagram thirst trap, and your grandma's guilty pleasure, Beef Loaf. A West Coast attitude in a decidedly Midwest body, My Sock Summer. And your host, he's sharing obscure music thoughts to give you time to hit the bathroom, Teresi E.
Thank you, Cornsey, and welcome to the From the 108 podcast. Get ready for some baseball, beer, and bullshit. And remember the drinking rules. If Beef Loaf says allegedly, or that he wrote a blog about that, you drink.
It's happening.
And if I swear or say, here's the thing, you drink. And remember, if you tip $1.08, we'll all drink. All two of us. Two-man formation tonight.
Yes.
Key to this is no $5 to tell one of us to shut up for 5 minutes because we don't feel like carrying the show by ourselves for 5 minutes, and nor do you. So, Beef, I want to get it started real quick and find out, what are you drinking, my friend?
No, baby, it was a big night for rigatoni. I took a little break because I was watching the game. I wasn't drinking so much during the game, but I'm back on the red wine train, as I like to be on a Thursday night. And I know I got to be careful because we're starting late tonight. And then we got to get our arses out of town and get up to Minneapolis so we can continue to enjoy the ass whoopings that the White Sox are going to put on the Twins this weekend. How about you, Treasy? What do you got dialed up for right now?
So I'm getting down with the Maker's Mark cask strength again. So
okay, beautiful.
Seeing how that's going to go for the rest of the night. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm taking it slightly easy because we know we got the early morning tomorrow. Got to get out of town.
Yep.
But man, I'll tell you, I'm more excited than I was to get up there. That's for sure, man. And now we apparently we might have to run on the field and fight with the team because I mean, like, I don't know what was going on at the end of the game.
Josh Nelson says Treasy's going to miss his flight. No. Treasy's an early riser. He might feel terrible on his flight, but he's not going to miss it. He'll be there for sure.
I'll be up at 5:30 tomorrow morning. No fail. Beef, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Terrific. I don't know if you knew this, Treasy, but I won Sox Math for a fourth time. You know,
now what is Sox Math? Now? Tell me.
Sox Math is a game on the broadcast. Founded by Jason Benetti among others, and it's a bit of like a quick math problem, almost like an algebra problem to some extent. And I mean, I've only played a handful of times this year. A couple times I've lost by a few seconds, and then Monday night I finally got my first victory. And I felt like a man on a mission. I will drink to that, Greg. Thank you for the $1.08. I felt like a man on a mission because it's Sunday while we're at the game. We're enjoying some great sunshine. The Sox beating the Tigers 4-2. Aloha Mr. Hand was bragging to someone about how he's got 4 Sox Math victories, and stupid Beef Loaf only has 3. And so I had to come back. I had to stiff arm him in the face, get my 4th victory. Jason Benetti put a lot of pressure on me about how my video was going to go. I felt that I did a good video, and then the reaction on Twitter was even better than I thought, Treasy. So first, I got 2 questions for you about it. 1, did you think I did an okay job with that one? And 2, where do I go next if I win Sox Math again? Like what I got to figure out a new angle maybe.
So first of all, I loved the video, the cold tub video, especially because of how the cold tub is. It reminded me of in Crybaby when Iggy Pop is just in the little tub washing himself, like that. It had a lot of that vibe, so I dug it. Mm-hmm. I think where you missed and where you can step it up a notch next time is when you look down. It would have been good to pull a Comcast remote out from the cold tub.
Missed opportunity, right?
I think that would have been good. I'm not critiquing. I'm just saying for the next, because
you're spitballing. Look at ideas. You're spitballing over here.
You had a great dunk, but you got to get a even better dunk next time, right?
Yeah,
and that's always the tough thing. You can't start going from the free throw line, but you need to get to the second round. So I mean, I thought you put forth a second round worthy dunk. And then next time we'll see what you got to do. But I think a Comcast remote is an absolute must.
Absolutely. How about you, Treasy? How you doing this fine evening, my friend?
I'm doing good. So I got a text from our buddy the Dude earlier, and he sent me a story about a possible Pantera reunion. And my initial reaction was, is this some Weekend at Bernie shit? Because half the band is not alive. And it's not like overtime.
Half.
It's not like overtime, like people passed away or left the band and then they filled in some other people and now, and then this is the last incarnation of the band. No. It was the band. There was always the 4 same guys. The 2 brothers died.
Right.
And now they're like, well, we're gonna get a reunion. You can't get a reunion. You can go back out on tour. You can't have a reunion. Am I out of line here?
No, you're right. You can do the Leonard Skinner where there's like no original members in it. It's just like someone bought the name and there's like a guy who played keyboard once on a tour and it's like, oh yeah, I'm an original member, and it's all these other random motherfuckers that's doing the tour, but it's not a reunion. You're right.
Right. It's not a reunion. Like you can't name it a reunion. Like that's all I'm saying. And like I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh man, think of all these cool guitarists that you could get into this situation. But like, not a reunion. Like no one's being reunited.
White Sox Sal's right. Reunion in heaven. That's no.
Well, I mean, Phil Anselmo is
possibly.
Phil Anselmo is always in danger of that.
That's right.
He claims to have died backstage once. So I mean, like I guess that's always an option.
But I think that checks out.
Beef, I was sitting here thinking about it, and I was like, what would that mean in our terms? And that would basically be My Sock Summer getting 2 other people and saying that he reunited the 108.
108 reunion.
My Sock Summer, Nick Morawski, and K-Fitz.
That's right. The 108 reunion. God bless. I mean, what is that? Just a money grab? I mean, what? Otherwise, you just make a different band. Like, I don't understand why you even do that. Is it just trying to make some money? Like, go back out on tour, make some money?
Well, yeah. I mean, yes. I'm sure the impetus is money. Yeah. But I mean, like, Phil Anselmo's had other bands. I think Rex is as well. And there's good music there and everything. But the name carries so much weight, right? Yeah. And like, I think they're seeing like bands like Rage Against the Machine go back out on tour and fill arenas, and they're probably like, man, I mean, what could we do with if we did Pantera?
That's right.
And I don't care what they do, just don't call it a reunion.
Well, I mean, especially like Dimebag is like kind of the visionary of that thing, and the way he played guitar was, not the way other people were playing guitar. It's kind of like a different thing. I'm sure a studio musician can do it, and it'll sound exactly fucking like it. But it's kind of
we were talking about that though. Like there's a bit of it where it's also the persona, right? So like there's only a few guys that could probably pull off being the Dimebag in that band, right? And I think like we were talking about Zakk Wylde being a possible guy, or Matt Pike from High on Fire, like where these guys are like kind of like metal gods, but also might be homeless. Like you have to toe that line.
Grungy. You gotta be a little grungy.
You have to toe that line. I actually worked a show where Dimebag was playing.
Yeah.
And then I was.
How'd he smell? Good or what?
You know what? He smelled just fine. But
Okay.
The interesting thing was, so it was with his band afterwards. So him and Vinnie Paul were in Damage Plan, I believe, afterwards. Mm-hmm. And he came out, and I was actually, for this, I was working on the stage. So I was stage crew. So I was out there for the next band, Yep. And so I'm just kind of standing up on stage, and Dimebag Darrell walks by me with a glass, like a full, like, it was plastic, but it was like full glass. And I was like, what the hell are you drinking? Like a Coca-Cola or something? No, he had a bottle of Jägermeister, and he was drinking a glass of Jägermeister.
It's refreshing glass of Jägermeister.
Not a rocks glass, not a
like
shot glass, like just a clear solo cup, and no ice, nothing. This is for the set. This is for the next 45 minutes. I'm just going to drink warm Jägermeister. This is what I do on stage. So some respect right there. I'll tell you that much.
White Sox wants to know where the Italian MSS is. He's already hitchhiking to Minneapolis. That's the only way he can get there. the Beanie Baby money didn't come through. He's got to put the thumb out there, show an ass cheek, and hopefully he can get up to Minneapolis by game time tomorrow night. And then Baloney wants to know, could they do holograms Tupac style? Yeah, probably, but I don't. You can't do the hair like these guys do with a hologram. That wouldn't work. I don't think.
Here's the problem. Because if you're assuming you're doing that, you're doing a backing track, and Phil Anselmo is far too erratic to follow a backing track. That'll go off the rails in the first 34 seconds of the set. So I'm gonna say no on holograms. But I mean, like a Vinnie Paul hologram, just like with his feet going like a million miles an hour. I'm in for that.
And my guy Joe Latham's up in the comments saying he's the most handsome man on White Sox Twitter's right. His Thirst Trap Thursday was terrific. I got to be honest with you, I didn't include a picture where you could almost see Hog. I thought about it, but I thought we're a little early in the game. Maybe we'll bring him back in a few months, and it'll be all Hog pictures.
I mean, maybe we start a Pornhub page instead of just YouTube, and we'll get it there.
That's right. And Beer Garden Jim says Jordan Miller will kill Tupac's hologram. That's a given.
That's definitely gonna happen.
That'll happen for sure.
But you know what I got to do right now, Beef? I got to kick it over to Treasy to pay some bills.
I love it.
Thank you, Self. Hey, it's me, Treasy E, for Mazda of Orland Park. Mazdas are so damn awesome, I bought one myself. So head on over to www.mazdaoforlandpark.com, where you can check out their complete lineup of cars for yourself. And be sure to follow Mazda of Orland Park on Twitter @ZoomZoomNation, as they give away free tickets and parking to the White Sox games on the reg. Mazda of Orland Park, home of the Zoom Zoom Nation. 8910 West 159th Street, Orland Park. 708-444-3200. Zoom Zoom.
Wow.
All right. How'd you like that, buddy?
Yeah, I love that.
You know, nice and succinct, short, but to the point.
Much more brief than a My Sox Summer monologue that he likes to throw in there.
In his defense, he wrote that.
He did. He did write that. I noticed he writes a small one, the short one for you. With him, it's a novel. So I see where his ego's at. You know, he doesn't want you to overtake him.
He wanted he likes his talk time.
He does like that.
All right, Beef. Let's get into a little bit of White Sox talk, and for once this season, some joyful White Sox talk, because what we're going to do is recap the game that we just watched. Oh my God, let's start with the bad though. Let's start it out with the bad, because we should touch on a few things. So in the very beginning of the game, before the glory of later for him, Luis Robert looked absolutely lost in center field. I don't know if he was baked or what, but like him traversing center field was like the equivalent of My Sox Summer traversing Fangraphs. Like it just looked like he knew where he was, he just didn't know what to do. Like, and so I'm Beef, what did you think about, there was multiple plays where it just kind of looked like, what are you doing out here?
I don't know if it was something to do with like the time of night that they started. It's a little earlier start. I don't know if it's like maybe the sight lines were a little different. The way the sun was and everything was maybe a little different for Luis. But you're right. He broke back on a ball that was clearly like a bloop. I mean, Josh Harrison sprinted out there to try to get it. It kind of fell right between them. That was when Johnny Cueto kind of got upset. Like he got a nice, easy pop-up, and Luis Robert went back. And then there was the other one where he was going back, and it was like, it wasn't quite as bad as the A.J. Pollock one where A.J. Pollock jumped and it went behind him, but it kind of went behind Luis. Like he kind of got confused out there. It was very weird, Like,
he went right past it.
Yeah, it was bizarre, like the angles he was taking. I don't know if it was time of night or, just he wasn't focused or whatever, but he sure as fuck was focused at the plate, Treasy. He got his focus on real quick when he had to be at the plate. So I don't mind. I'm okay with the little defensive laps if you're going to hit the hell out of the ball the way Luis Robert did tonight.
That home run, I mean, it was the furthest hit home run for the Sox this year. So it was 452 feet, I believe, which
Yep.
if there wasn't a stadium in the way, I don't know if it would have ever landed. It didn't seem like it got it going down. Like it felt like it was still on an
it was
upward
like the Glen
trajectory.
Allen Hill home run that when it went to the rooftop was still going up, and people on Twitter were commenting that thing was on the uprise when it got out,
like,
when it hit the
it
stands.
skipped into like whatever was the back. Like I don't know if that was. I hope it wasn't like the kids section. Like I hope there was no like broken legs or anything. But yeah, I mean, that ball was torched. It was unbelievable. And I was, I think it was great. It was a great moment in White Sox Twitter because I think most of White Sox Twitter, and I'll include, I didn't say it, but you started to feel it, right? You started, oh, here's the Sox with the bases loaded again. Here we go. Yeah, after Yohan grounds out and you're like, okay, this is happening again. And talk about changing just everyone's attitude, everyone's feelings in just a moment. That ball changed that game, and I really feel like it changed kind of how I was feeling about even Luis Robert, because at that point he had made those bad plays in the field.
Yep.
He's up, he's still chasing. You still see him chasing, and I think that kind of shows you like, okay, maybe he just needed to get it together just a little bit, and then here it is again. And
you hate
torched the ball the rest of the game.
He did, and he hit 2 hard doubles and one where he got confused on the base paths too, Treasy. And that one double, he didn't run at first because he thought it was going to be foul. Then it's in there, he ran to first. Then he sort of stopped after he got to first, and then he ran to second. It was like he was confused. You might be right. He might have been baked high as a giraffe's balls. I have no idea, but whatever it was, the results came. But for me, that plate appearance, though, was exciting because all year long, you've seen the White Sox hitters wasting cookies, wasting sliders that got away from someone and slid out over the plate, and they foul it back or they pop it up or whatever. And this is what you do on a mistake pitch. You hammer it out of the park, and it was fun to see. And it was also a matter of it's 2-1, they're ahead. Bust the goddamn game open. And there's been so many chances they've had to bust a fucking game open, and they never do it. And then watching tonight, it's like, wow, you feel like, wow, that's the offense. That's the offense we've been missing. And I was thinking about coming into the series because we were on a little bit of a down note, even though, winning 2 games in Cleveland, you want them in kind of like not as fun ways, right? You beat a lefty in the one game, and then you win 2-1 last night, and kind of just your offense didn't perform well. But I thought this ballpark and this pitching staff, even as righties, they're so mediocre. Like, this is the team we can get to. So it was encouraging tonight to not get into one of those spots where you lose on a late error 3-2 or whatever. They just blew the game open right away. It was kind of never in play, and Luis Robert was the key to that. Just it was him, it was Tim, it was Jose, but it was Luis being the superstar we think he could be.
Let's talk about the Centaur though. Johnny Cueto. I mean, so first of all, he struggled at the beginning. Yeah, and you could tell that he didn't quite have his best stuff. He was working through there. He got out of some jams. Great play by AJ Pollock. And cheers to Sebi Savala for catching the ball and putting the tag on. Even if that guy was safe, I don't care, Stoney. Stoney, I was cheers to Brian and to the porn bots. Yeah, we do what we can. We invite them every week, but they rarely show up.
They're busy sometimes. A late start, I think, is helping, Trees. I think the late start is allowing the porn bots to come into the YouTube comments. I'm really appreciative of it.
But yeah, so that play, to play at home, just a great throw from Pollock, who has a subpar arm. This isn't me talking shit about him. This is a known attribute of his game. That's why he tends to play left field as opposed to right field. It's mainly on the strength of the arm. So to see him put it on a line, right to home plate, no bounce, just right in the glove, right on there. Yep. And then Sebi to just get the ball and tag quickly, make the play.
Yep.
Awesome. But the second part of this, why are Jason and Stoney so hell-bent on the guy being safe? Just take it. Just take it. It's a close play.
They're not used to it.
It's a close play. The guy's foot definitely came up. Yeah. Just be Hawk for a minute and say, we definitely got him. We definitely got him on that. Yep. And if they didn't challenge it because they knew they'd lose. End of story.
That's right.
Just give me that.
Yeah, it was disheartening. I agree, Trees. It was disheartening to try to find a way for the Twins to steal that from us, to steal that beautiful play from us.
For the guy who's been telling us to enjoy the fucking ride the whole time, when it's actually enjoyable, he's trying to bring us down.
And it's his birthday, too. His birthday. Did you see Stoney out there flexing that Lucas Giolito's mom sent him a note? Happy birthday. He was flexing.
That was interesting because they showed the Rick Giolito tweet, and then he had to mention that Rick's wife sent him a text.
Exactly.
Because Stoney ain't checking the DMs. This was a text he got.
This was direct to him. I totally agree. No, you're right about Cueto. I was thinking about Cueto too, Chirizi, from this aesthetic standpoint, right? It's a great signing because it costed almost nothing. We got lucky that we were able to get a Johnny Cueto, and he's pitching out of his fucking mind right now. But there's an aesthetic to this where people of a certain age, we remember when pitchers pitched, and it wasn't all just like velocity and ridiculous breaking stuff and like this athleticism that's just overwhelming to the hitter, right? And I love all that shit too. But it's fun to like watch a guy up there think the game and do some of these things that fools the hitter, put them off balance. And I know you love this as much as I did. And I was waiting for Twitter to freak out, and they started to freak out for a little bit. He gets to 100 or 101 pitches in the fifth inning. He struggles, barely gets out of that inning. That fly ball to Sheets that's on the warning track, and he like celebrates. He's really excited. And then the sixth inning, he's back out there in the mound, right? And so I was surprised. But then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, okay, they're up 8-1. Johnny's been pitching forever. Okay, so you shouldn't be worried about him going from 100 to 120 pitches. That's fucking meaningless for a guy of his age. And he's going to get 2 weeks off, basically, because they're going to have the all-star break and he won't pitch. He's not going to pitch again, okay? So then he goes out there, and Stoney starts bringing up some of those points. Like, they minimize the big lead, but the big lead to me is the most important part. Like, almost nothing can go wrong here. He gives up a couple base runners, pull him out, who gives a fuck? And he goes out there and strikes out the goddamn side. I was so excited that something like that worked, and that it was a perfect situation for it to happen. You shouldn't be doing that all the time, but that was like great context for that to occur, and it was an example of like, oh, there you go. You used your head on some shit like this. You shouldn't normally stretch it. This was a great spot to use it, and it was fun to watch Johnny go out there, be animated, and strike out the side.
Man, I wanted them to just stay out. Like I would like just give him a complete game, 174 pitches. Like I would have been fine. But Beef, a point that you made at the start of this is that he is not a power pitcher. He's not trying to throw 100 miles an hour out there, and that kind of plays into the ability to go a little bit further in a game pitch wise, right? Like you could go 120 pitches, and you're not putting quite the stress on your arm that you might. And I think that was their biggest concern when they came out, when he had hurt his leg, was they didn't want him to put a ton of stress on the arm. The arm's old, right? They get that. But if he's pitching the way he always has, and it's all coming from the legs like it normally does, like I think I don't see a problem with throwing him that long, especially, the point was made. He's not going to pitch again in this series, which means he's not going to pitch again until like the 23rd or something like that.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's like there's plenty of time for him to rest that arm. So I loved it, man. I can't get enough of Johnny Cueto. So I'm happy to see that extra inning. And the other thing is too, 4-game set. You just played 4 games in 3 days, right? Mm-hmm. Every inning that you can keep your bullpen out of the game is valuable.
Yeah.
Which you saw that the Twins even felt that at the end of the game, where they're like, we'll just let Nick Gordon get bashed around for a little while because we don't want to spend another bullpen arm, which makes sense. I think that's the idea behind putting in your position players. But, I loved that they were just smacking the ball around. Like, you're going to put in a position player. You deserve.
This is what we're doing. Seven Zavala's going deep on your ass.
If we put in a position player too, we deserve what we get. Like they should be smashing the ball.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree. A couple other notes I got on this, Treasy, from the other side. Was Rocco Baldelli drunk? Here's one thing. Like
he left Sonny Gray in a long time.
Time.
After he was obviously hurt.
Just let the guy load the bases, then let him throw a spin around. I mean, he buried them with that decision right there. Like, he screwed that entire inning up, and that kind of like really just put the nail in the coffin right there. But like, he didn't challenge the one that Stoney and them said like, oh, it might be a worthwhile challenge. I kind of agree with them. The leverage had to be reasonable, at least, considering how poor the White Sox offense had been going up to that point. And then they challenged the one on Mercado. It's like, that's not getting overturned. Why are you challenging that? Like, and you're already down a bunch of runs. That was the 8th run or whatever it was. Who gives a shit about it at that point? Like, what the hell are you doing here? I wondered if Rocco Baldelli was nipping. It's one thing that we neglect. We watch our manager and think, oh man, our manager's making all these stupid decisions. But if you watch closely enough, you'll see other teams' managers making just as stupid fucking decisions against us. And you're like, wow, like, I can't believe we're getting the. Now, the Sox haven't been taking advantage of that shit. But you'll see a lot of dumb stuff. And today we saw some dumb shit, and we took full advantage of that shit.
Well, I feel like the Twins fans wanted to fire Baldelli last year. So, like, right. I mean, like, yeah. This is not new to him. And his management of his pitchers and his bullpen is not looked upon favorably by the fans in Minnesota. And I think, I think that's something, Beef, while we're up there this weekend, will be fun to discuss with Minnesota fans is like, whose manager do we hate more? Like, I can't imagine they love Rocco Baldelli, like that it's turned around for them. And then especially you see what happened today. So like, that should be interesting to see, like, if they're like, you should be happy you have Tony La Russa.
I wonder, would they want to do a wife swap with us? I don't know. After watching Rocco, I'm not sure I want.
I don't want
Rocco. I'd be willing to get rid of Tony, but I don't want Rocco back. Like that, people were asking, like, "Oh, would you take Joe Madden?" I would not. No thanks.
Oh no.
I'll stay out of Joe Madden's business. One other Twins thing, Treasy, that I wanted to bring up too, and I'm gonna end up paying for saying this shit, but I barely remember that Carlos Correa is on the Twins. I'm not gonna lie. To me, I haven't seen him be a factor. I don't even know. I don't know when he's. I don't even notice when he's batting. I have no clue.
You know what I think it partially is Byron Buxton is that good that you kind of mark where Buxton is all the time. Yep. That plays into it. But you know what, man? Rise and Polanco are as, if not more effective than Correa this year. And that's it. That's like, he's not the infielder that's providing the most pop. And he plays a fine shortstop. Like of course. Yep. I'd love to see him play second base for the Sox, but like, but I don't think that's enough to make me go like, oh man, there's Carlos Correa. Because I'll tell you who I did notice is Javi Baez, right? Like Javi Baez, and part of that is there's no one else on that team that you really care about yet. I'll say yet because there's some tigers up. They're on their way up, but like Baez is the focus where you're like, I don't want to get burned by this guy. But Buxton is very much that guy for the Twins. Buxton is just an incredible baseball player when he's healthy and when he's out there. Yeah. And so I think it might be partially that you're just focused on him. But at the same time, like, we all thought that Correa was there mainly to get traded, right? And so we see him now. We should be looking at a team where, like, that's the 3 and 4 right there and just, like, really being a big problem. He's not done that yet. I hope that at least for the next few days he continues to not do that shit.
I'd agree totally.
Now, speaking of some shit and some shit talking, we got to touch on this whole Ozzie Guillen, Tony La Russa, John Heyman scenario here. And now, so Beef, we talked a little bit about this on the playback the other night, and me and you have a similar thing on this with Ozzie. Is like, Ozzie went hard on Rick Renteria. Yep. And he was definitely trying to get that job to the point that they called him and said, we're not giving you the job. Preempted.
He was pining after an old girlfriend. So that's how bad it was. Yep.
Right. And so when we talked about it on playback, you mentioned, okay, now he feels like the foot might be back in the door, like this. It's the old, waiting out the boyfriends on some girl. You gotta time it right. And so, I think this is that again. And so now Beef, what did you think about overall with the comments? And like, let's start with just the comments from Ozzy about TLR. We'll get to the Heyman part in a minute.
Yeah, so I said this on the playback, and if you're not watching these playbacks, we're doing playback where we talk over the game on Tuesday nights, and we do it with the Sox Machine crew and Josh Nelson, Jim Margulis. It's really kind of their thing, but they invite us on there, and we talk about the game. We talk about all kinds of things and just sort of have a good time watching the game together, basically like being there and checking the game out together. One of the things they talked about, though, was like with Ozzy, it's hard for me to like trust him in this situation because of how hard he was pining for the job with Ricky. And he bashed the hell out of Ricky in spots where you thought to yourself, I don't know if this is legitimate or not, or if he's just really like, oh, I'm better than this guy. I feel like I'm better than he is. And so that's why, like, when it comes to him criticizing the manager, I just don't care that much. You know, like I don't really take his opinion as like something I should really listen to. But I was thinking about it a little more, Treasy, like after this. Like I kind of block his opinion out on that. Ozzy's entertaining, and don't get me wrong, don't mince my words. Ozzy's a bright guy, he's entertaining, and I loved him as a White Sox player and manager. I'm just talking about the afterwards, where he was really pining for the job hard, and you couldn't watch the post-game show during the Rick Renteria era, especially when they were good, because Ozzy would nitpick everything, and it's like, this is ridiculous. Every manager does these types of things, and he's just really pining for the job. But I thought about this afterwards, Treasy. Everyone's kind of making Ozzy a hero now for Breaking Bad on Tony. And you know what? It took him 2 fucking years. A lot of people been here saying Tony's screwing up or whatever. What took him so long? Like, why is he just figuring this out now? We should be bashing him in the other direction. Oh, you finally have caught up to what's going on here. You're finally seeing what's out there, and you're not like, oh my God, oh, because they're not playing good. Now I'm noticing, like, almost like a dumbass. Like, what the hell? Like, so in my opinion, we should be going hard the other way on Ozzy. Like, yeah, what took you so long? Instead of, sports radio and everything, treating him like he's some fucking hero. You're not a hero. Everyone's been saying this for a year and a half, basically. And it's as it's gone, it's gotten progressively worse with Tony. It's where you could feel like, man, he's a step behind. And I don't think I don't think Tony is like totally terrible. I just think you get to see that it's a beat slow sometimes. They're not always on top of the things they need to be on top of, and that can be costly. Long term, I don't know that managers matter that much, but I don't think he's an additive at this point. It's like, why did it take Ozzy that long to figure this out? Why are we kissing his ass? It took him longer to figure this out than basically everyone who's watching, every other observer, and he's probably the highest paid observer, and he couldn't figure it out for this long of a time. So I think it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you.
Well, now I'm a little worried about you though, Beef, because you're talking down to Ozzy, and on these Twitter streets, on these media streets, that gets your ass kicked. Because John Heyman kind of made the same point that we were making about, you're trying to trash this guy and then you want the job, basically.
Right. Yeah.
In so many words. And Ozzy took quite a bit of offense to it.
He did.
Which is a little telling in both ways. But
yeah,
it got to the point where he's basically wants to fight John Heyman for charity.
Yeah.
But Beef, I was thinking about this, right? There's no upside on this for Ozzy. For Ozzy, if they were to actually fight, there's no upside.
No.
Because if he fights and beats up John Heyman, fine. But then the line's going to be like, he can't take the heat in the media, and he had to resort to violence, right? And then
Yumper, cheers.
Yump.
Thank you, brother.
Now, if you're Heyman, you just go in there and throw haymakers, right? Just like, and if you luckily land one,
and
you knock Ozzy out, then Ozzy's your bitch. Like, there's no good version of this for Ozzy. All that said, I want Ozzy to do it, and I want Ozzy to beat the shit out of John Heyman. I'll pay whatever that pay-per-view is. I'll pay more for that pay-per-view than Beef when we paid for the pay-per-view of Mike Tyson to come out for one round and then go sit down and cry. I'll pay more than what we paid that time, and I'll be happy to do it.
Well, I thought it was hilarious. I looked it up, Treasy. I looked it up. I was like, I want to look up their ages or whatever. Ozzy's 58. So you kind of know what Ozzy's age is. I'm like, I have no idea how old John Heyman is. He's 61. So they're pretty close in age. The only issue I see in it, and you're right with the downside for Ozzy, And Ozzy, nothing against Ozzy. Ozzy was a terrific baseball player. He's I think he's still top 30 in defensive B-WAR. So he's one of the best defenders that's ever fucking walked the earth in baseball. But does he look like he hits the gym to you? To me, it looks like he hits Chicago cut more than he's hitting the gym. So you're right, there's some downside risk here. He is a former athlete, so it should give him an advantage here.
Wait.
But there's a little bit of risk, in my opinion.
So he's a former athlete. Also, I mean, Beef, we've seen him out at the bar.
Yeah.
It don't look like he's lacking energy.
He's a live wire. He's a live wire. Yeah.
I mean, he'll run circles around Heyman, and then he just got to land a couple punches. I mean, let's not forget that John Heyman is a 61-year-old writer.
I
don't think he's hitting the gym either.
Now, Treasy, do you think with all this stuff, the way Ozzy's going, you think he's positioning himself for a job at Barstool? Do you think he's thinking of himself now more as like a media personality and saying, well, if the Sox thing doesn't work out, I'm going to move on to do something else?
I don't know if he's positioning himself for that, but he'd be electric doing like his own kind of thing like that.
For sure.
I'm sure there's, there's other guys, in similar, like there's the John Boy Media and there's, whatever Carabas is doing now with DraftKings. Like there's tons of stuff like that where they could absolutely use an Ozzy Guillen. And Ozzy knows enough about all the other teams that he does national broadcasts. He does all this stuff. So he could definitely fit right into one of those and just be insane. The best part is that if he were to do something like one of those and not be on television, the expletives would fly.
He could just say anything. Yeah, he could really go off and say some shit.
It would be very interesting to see what he would say. I would tune in. I would surely tune in to hear what Ozzy's saying. Unfiltered Ozzy. Yeah, I'll take that all day.
Absolutely. That'd be true. That's why I was thinking about it a little bit. It's like if he got into a thing where he was doing his own brand, and then he could talk about anything. He could go off in weird tangents, and it could be because Ozzy's entertaining. I mean, that's the whole bit there.
Hold on a second.
You're watching the show for entertainment, aren't you?
Did I hear right today? And he kind of said it under his breath, and I thought I caught it, and I thought it was hilarious. But when he was talking about his friend, who's also has a birthday today, that he's in Venezuela, and I think he said he's in jail. I think he kind of snuck in. He's in jail.
Okay.
And I don't know if I heard it right. Maybe I misheard it, but I swear that's what he said. And that's the kind of content I want.
I would be happy to do. Baloney's up in the comments. He said, "I need Sox Machine 108 playback of the Ozzy versus Heyman fight." We would be happy to do that. We would. I think my Sox summer would really shine in that sort of situation. It's not baseball. It's just sort of like wildness, and I think he would do terrific in that.
The actual fight though. We'll be doing the playback, of course, but the actual fight for the commentators, I need Kendall Gill there, unless Kendall Gill is Ozzy's
on the undercard.
Oh, well, he could be on the undercard too. Yeah. But I need him involved in this somehow. Either on the undercard, in the corner, commentating. He's involved. I want Kendall Gill involved in this.
Excellent.
But so we'll work on getting that put together. Hopefully, 108 Day is a bigger charity event than we had ever hoped for, and it's Ozzy Guillen beating the shit out of John Heyman. But in order to do that, I think we got to pay some bills. So let me quickly get to that.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching us on a live stream right now and haven't subscribed, make sure you tickle the undercarriage of that subscribe button and get on board. If you've already subscribed and are watching the show, talking smack about MSS's internet and generally meat gazing at Treasy E and I, please smash that like button in the face. If you are listening on the podcast feed and have never enjoyed the eroticism that is the YouTube version of this show, come to youtube.com/FromThe108 and hit that subscribe button. Our previous goal was 1,000 subscribers. We're currently at 1,100 plus. That's going to allow us to make minimum wage for about 1 hour per month if we do a full podcast schedule. You just can't beat that. So get your friends, your family, your dog, everyone to subscribe and allow the 108 to fulfill the dream of becoming YouTube thousandaires. I love you.
All right.
I do love you. I do love you all, just so you know.
Beef, it's time for some more White Sox talk.
Let's do it.
we got the series coming up this weekend. It started already. We already know one result, but let's get into the series results.
Yep.
For the next 3 games. So, Beef, next 3 games in Minnesota.
Yep.
What do the Sox do?
Okay, so I had written this down before the first game even started. This was my prediction for the 4-game series. I think the Sox go 3-1 in this series. I think they got a good chance to smash Devin Smeltzer tomorrow. They always beat up on left-handed pitchers. And then in the last 2, you got Dylan Bundy going against Lance Lynn, which is 2 kind of heavy guys on a hot day, so it should be interesting. And then Sunday, the Twins are so goddamn scared to put a starting pitcher against Dylan Cease, they have TBA going against them. So I like our chances to get 2 out of the next 3 and to end up with this thing where we're only a couple back, kind of starting the All-Star break. I just see, like I talked about in the front part, this is a stadium where the White Sox can hit some home runs. Like, I know our park is friendly and it hasn't worked out, but of the road parks that they play in, especially in the division, this is the one I like the best for them to hit a bunch of home runs in. It just seems to be friendly for right-handed hitters, and they don't have the quality starting pitching to kind of push that off. And we saw it tonight. They hit 3 home runs in the game. So I really like our chances to go 3 out of 4 in this series. How about you, Treasy?
They don't have a lot of in the pen either. And so that's the
correct,
interesting thing. Now, Beef, I got to be honest, when I'm putting my notes together, a little bit before the game started, and I've got, we're going to split here, 2 and 2. Right. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it and hope that I'm pleasantly surprised how stupid I am, which is,
I think you will be.
Nothing wrong with being stupid, guys. As long as you're aware of it.
Just admit it. Just let it out there. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And hey, Dale, thanks, man. Getting some money towards that fight. So we'll see how much we can raise.
Bless you, Dale. This wine's going down like wine. I love it.
Yeah, so I don't know, Beef. I'm hesitant to switch my prediction, but tonight definitely swayed me because tonight hit different. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Like against Cleveland, I wasn't overjoyed with the results of that series, right? Like the games that they won, I thought, how could you I would have been really mad if they lost, right? Like you got the lefty starter in the one game, and then you got to the lefty reliever in the other game. Like there's a lot of, okay, well, this kind of just fell your way. Today, the only thing that really fell the Sox way was that ball off second base, right? I mean, like that's but other than that, I mean, like
I love it. It was like a masse.
They actually took advantage of all the mistakes, all the little things. They were able to take advantage of those, and home runs, man. You got to hit home runs. And so like I'm encouraged by that, but I've only had 3 or 4 small batch bourbons. I'm not drunk enough to just go off and go like, we're going to sweep or we're going to get 3. I'm sticking to 2. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, if the sweep comes, Treasy, King Nam called it in the group 108 DM. He said they're going to sweep this weekend, and he has a lot of bravado, and he doubled down. He's bet some more White Sox division future. So if it comes through, I'm going to credit my man. Must credit King Nam if they come through with the sweep here for sure.
So, Beef, who is going to be your star of the series? And I mean, like, we got to cut tonight out so that we like star of the rest of the series.
Scout's honor on who I wrote down in my notes. And the narrative will make sense for you. Andrew Vaughn. And the reason I wrote it down is it's about time for him to do something huge, because right now you have a little bit of like, you have the people that are kind of like the newer, younger people who were really in on the rebuild and caught all the Andrew Vaughn hype, and they're like, Andrew Vaughn's great. And Andrew Vaughn is having a good year. And then you got some of us older school fans that have seen a lot of this stuff and are like, Andrew Vaughn's hitting well. We need to see Andrew Vaughn like carry an offense for 3 weeks or start hitting a bunch of home runs or really show that he can weather the length of a season and be a really good player for all that time. Like you mentioned the other day, Treasy, when we were talking on one of these podcasts, it's like you've seen a month sliver of a lot of these guys be great, but you haven't seen an entire year of it for a bunch of them. A bunch of these guys have not kind of filled out their true talent or the potential for an entire year. And we need it from Andrew Vaughn. I thought right now is a perfect time for Andrew Vaughn to start picking this up. It seems like Josh Nelson mentioned, he seems like he's getting his legs back underneath him a little bit. And although he appears to have a lingering injury going on and they have to DH him a lot, it hasn't affected the bat that much. But he hasn't come through big in a lot of spots, and he hasn't been putting the power out there. So it was nice to see him today just grip it and rip it and knock one 440 into left center gap. And no doubter, just one that was absolutely crushed. And it's like, good. That's the kind of production we're going to need on Andrew Vaughn. Like, it's nice if he wants to be like Wade Boggs or whatever. We need a fucking power hitter. I need 35 home runs, man. This is what this offense needs here. And so I just feel like enough being the guy with 10,000 singles, put this offense on your back and start hitting a bunch of extra base hits and home runs. And tonight could be a nice start, nice sign of that.
You know, Beef, I got a question here because, like, I agree with you. And I like seeing Vaughn stay at that DH spot and get healthy, right? And get right. But it leads me to a question of Eloy's obviously hurt, right? Like, and they're talking, oh, maybe he could play this weekend. Just put him on the IL. Bring up another out. Bring up like Hazley or someone so that you have an outfielder so that you don't get in a position where you're like, oh, damn, we got to put Vaughn out there.
Right.
You know,
Like,
don't put yourself in that position. Just don't allow it to happen. It's just a few days that we have the All-Star break. It's a 10-day IL for hitters. Like, you'll have him back as soon as you need him. Like, assuming he's okay, just give him the rest. And then you can let Andrew Vaughn continue to DH or play first. Assume you'll give Abreu a couple days at DH. But, like, I don't get why they don't just do that. It seems like such an easy maneuver. And I don't know if it's the optics of it, but I don't give a shit about the optics of it. Just do the right thing.
Well, I was thinking about this too, Treasy, because it makes too much sense, right? You got this gap here, and you're right. You know, Vaughn can't really play the outfield, so you're kind of like cutting yourself short. I was thinking, I think some of the litmus tests here and some of the things they're talking about, they would like Eloy Jimenez to be less of a pussy, I think. They want him to be able to fucking play through some injuries. And I kind of like, I that's the first I've seen kind of the way they presented it and talked about it and how he's going to have to learn how to deal with these things and stuff. And, you know, sometimes there are players like that who they have a hard time dealing with any sort of injury. And then you have people like Jose Abreu who's just tough as nails and you don't even know half the time that he's injured. Or like the early part of the season, you could see he's on one leg. Doesn't matter. The guy's still out there. He's producing. You know, some guys are kind of built differently. It almost seems like they're trying to like tough love Eloy in there. But I agree with you. Like, why? Don't bother with this right now. Just get yourself a healthy player up here and move on out of there.
Even bring up a Berger or Sosa, right? Like so that like you have a backup infielder, right? And then you don't have like Lurie's not the only backup infielder.
Yeah, exactly. You can let and Lurie can also play the outfield too. So you got a little more
push him out by but
exactly. Late in the game if you need to or whatever. One thing that was going through my mind, Treasy, because we've been banging on it a lot about the terrible corner outfielders. Let me ask you a question. Has Gavin Sheets passed up Andrew Vaughn in outfield competency on defense for you?
I think so. I mean, I think he looks fine out there, right?
Yeah.
And I think his ability to turn and throw accurately, and he's got a good arm, is the best kind of value that he has out there. Right. But he's faster than Vaughn.
He's faster than Vaughn, yes.
And
very clearly faster.
That's a big key. Yeah. And so, I think right now, if I'm putting a starting lineup out against a right-handed pitcher, I have Gavin Sheets in right field. He's hitting enough for me to say, okay, that's our best option.
Exactly. That's your spot. Good luck. Well, Greg Miller in the comments asked, why isn't Adam Engel starting? Because he can't hit. He can't hit. I mean, he's just not hitting at all. I mean, like, he's still a fine defender. And like you saw, they pulled out Luis Robert and they put Adam Engel. And I think
I love that they did that at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I think they should be more aggressive with using Adam Engel as a defensive replacement because you kind of have a setup here where you're really lacking in the corners and like you could strengthen that thing up. But he just hasn't hit, man. I said it back in 2020. I told you in MSS we might have just seen Adam Engel's peak. And since then, he was good last year, but very injured, and then injured this year. Now the bat is just completely gone. And I mean, he's not a spring chicken either. Like, he's an older player now.
I will say, with the way that the defense is aligned, and as much as I'll air quote accolades that I gave Gavin Sheets a moment ago, seventh inning and on, if it's a close game, Adam Engel should be in the outfield. Yeah. Like, he should be somewhere in the outfield. If a left-handed pitcher comes in to face Gavin Sheets, Adam Engel should bat. Like these are
Yes.
these things have to happen. Like this is how
Right.
they should be handling that. But I think overall, I like Adam Engel in what he is currently being used as. This is a good usage of Adam Engel. I like it,
Yeah.
and I like the player. He's fast. He's good on the bases usually. He's good in the
Except when
outfield.
there's triple plays being turned.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not gonna judge him solely on that one, but he's made some boneheaded plays on the base paths, but generally he's been a good base runner. He's good in the outfield for sure, and that's the kind of guy, like that's the kind of backup you should have. You should have a backup where people are going, hey, why don't we play this guy more? That's the kind of backup you want. You don't want the backup where you're like, oh shit, this guy again. I love having guys like that on the team.
No, that's good. And I see this comment on here from Amanda Klein. She says, Adam had a great offensive streak for a while. Frank broke him. It's funny. I wrote a blog about like looking at the production, especially the home runs or whatever. And for me, there's only like a certain like window of players that I think it's possible for Frank Menachino to break. And Adam Engel would be one of those players where he's like not a star and like always tinkering with things because he's not that great of a hitter. And so like if Frank gets his hands on him, he could ruin an Adam Engel. And so I totally believe that could be possible there. I'm open to that.
Yeah, I mean like here's where it's interesting. So Frank Menachino, I've defended mainly because I don't think hitting coaches do all that much.
Yeah.
And I don't think that like Jose Abreu goes to Frank Menachino for anything.
No.
And in fact,
no.
I don't think like Luis Robert goes to Frank Menachino for much. He probably goes to Jose Abreu for things.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that, that some of it of like, oh, they're not hitting, it's on Menachino. I don't like that so much. At the same time, Menachino's been fired before. And and like it's not like there was some moment other than 2020 where you really saw the offense just kind of take off and you're just like, oh yeah, this is what we're looking for. And that's a short season and everything. So like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Menachino by any means. Yeah. I don't want to, get out the torches and run him out of town because I just don't think it does anything.
Yeah.
But in this case, like I could see it because
I could see it
Engels
too, yeah.
changed his batting stance like 1,000 times. And like it's like, okay, well, someone's telling him to do this. Like he might just be coming up with it himself. He might be talking to White Sox Dave in a bar at 3 a.m. and deciding to change his stance. I don't know, but like something is changing with him.
Something's happening.
Let me get to my star of the series because I've mentioned him a few times within here, and that's Jose Abreu. And now Jose Abreu, and the reason I'm taking Jose Abreu, for one, he's been excellent, but the thing about it is, if I'm looking at the series as a whole, if he's going to go into Minnesota wanting to win, right? Like he's the number one guy who wants to win, wants to lead the team. The power is not necessarily there for Jose right now, but if everyone around him is starting to contribute, Jose could rack up ridiculous numbers in a series like that. In a 4-game series. Sure. There's no reason that Jose Abreu doesn't have like 10 hits, right? And like, it's something wild like that where it's like he had 10 hits, 8 singles and 2 doubles, right? Like, and just like, and a load of RBIs because like there's just people on base. Like that's the kind of series that you could rack up if you have a good series out there and everyone's kind of performing around Jose. So I'm going to say Jose in like the least spectacular way, being the star of the series.
Yeah, I mean, and he had 2 hits tonight, and Jose actually came through in the first inning. Tim leads off and gets a single, and then the next 2, Moncada and Robert kind of don't do a whole hell of a lot, and you end up with Tim on second and 2 outs. And a lot of times our entire game is based and weighing on Jose Abreu coming through in that spot right there because runs are hard to come by. And, of course, he lines a single to right center, drives in the run. It's like, we can always depend on Pito. And he had 2 hits tonight. I think they were both singles. They were just a quick scan. They were both singles. And he had 2 RBI. So, like, he did a Jose Abreu things, Treasy. So he's doing kind of what you think he could do. And that's sort of the plan, right? The plan was not for Jose to be the best hitter still at 35 years old and at this part of the rebuild. or this part of the contention window. It was Jose is your fourth best hitter, and he's having a great time, and he's driving in 100 runs because everyone around him is awesome. And we need some of that to start happening. Luis Robert, the last few days, it's happening. Andrew Vaughn, Tim maybe is snapping back into it. Yoan Moncada's having better at bats. He's only had that one game in Cleveland where he had the 3-run homer where you're actually seeing it come into fruition into something tangible, but he's still having the better at bats. So maybe it's coming, Treasy. Maybe this vision is coming for you.
I'd love to see it. I mean, I'd also love to see Yoan Moncada step it up, but it's not great. And like today he had a hit. And like I laughed because at first base he made the motion like he did he like shot a basketball and it just dropped in. Like I thought that was funny, but also at the same time I was like, I'd like to see you hit the ball hard. He was doing it for a while. I thought it was going to start coming. Well, maybe we'll see it this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. And speaking of this weekend, Beef, we're gonna be doing the 108 magic up there with the Sox Machine. We're gonna have the pregame on Saturday. If you guys have not, if you're going up to Minnesota and you've not got tickets to that pregame, go get them. Go to FromThe108.com or SoxMachine.com. You get tickets there. We can post a link after the show. But definitely go check it out. And we're going to be up there for starting at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday. So, Beef, I want a 108 prediction from you for this weekend.
I got it. So I was kind of looking a little bit, and there's over 100 tickets sold for this. I think there's like 110, 115 tickets sold. We've got a couple more, 30 more or something like that left. So if you want to get in on this, and it's going to be the only spot where we can all get together in one area. Like, I don't think we're going to be able to jam into any other bars like after the game or whatever where everyone's going to be able to hang out. So if you want to like kind of hit everyone in one spot, this is going to be the way to do it. But I was thinking about it a little bit, Treasy. I looked it up. I Googled nearest casino, and it's 35 minutes away. So this trip for us is going to be drinking, 108ing and 108ing. That's going to be it for us, kind of like this is the whole trip. 108ing, go to the game, 108ing, go to the game sort of thing. The guy who I feel like is due for a real big weekend, he hasn't had a big weekend in a while, and like he's up there early. He attended the game today, is King Nam. I think maybe this is King Nam's biggest weekend of the year. Like, he's been working a lot, hasn't been at the ballpark with us as much. He's on vacation or whatever, and another time, so he hasn't been out there. But like, he's all in for this weekend. So I think maybe he has himself an absolutely gigantic weekend amongst the crew, 108ing, just having a great time, and calling the 4-game sweep.
Now, Beef, I don't know. You saw that he sent a picture outside of a gentleman's club.
He did, yes.
And they had a hot dog buffet. Do you think he ends up there? And
I hope so. I hope we go with him. I hope we take him there after tomorrow night's game. I hope that is a victory party.
Dozen hot dogs easy. Yeah. Easy. So, Beef, my prediction is a little bit different. It's for the group. It's for the group. All right, but on Saturday, I think there's at least one person who does not make it to the game. So we have
the morning party.
We have the morning party.
Yeah.
And we'll have that one person that's like, hey, you know what? I got to stop back at my hotel. And I'm like, that person's pretty drunk. I hope they're okay. And then we see them getting on their flight on Sunday. That's the next time we see them.
I don't know. You know what? I like that idea, but there's a good delineation between there's a good delineation between people who are just taking it easy. They know lay of the land, and then the people that party real hard, like all of us, the 108 guys. So what I'm saying is maybe Chigerian Prince is the guy you're talking about right there. Is he the guy you're trying to mention? No,
that's not who I was thinking. That's not who I was thinking. I actually didn't have someone specific in mind.
No one.
But if I did have to choose someone, he's up there.
He's on the medal stand.
It'd be funny if he's on
Chris McGowan's right. A noon Irish goodbye. That's kind of what you're calling right here.
It'd be funny if Chigerian Prince was on the plane sitting next to one of us listening to the podcast and here's this part. It's like, what?
He turns and looks at us like, what the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know. I feel like it's a dangerous thing, the morning drinking. Yeah. I think people don't prepare for it well. People don't realize like, hey, I should have some food before I start doing this. You know, that's a big key. So we'll see how it goes. Sorry, I'm messing with an ice cube here that is way too big for the glass that I'm using. But we've got it now. We've got it now. And I could get on to, once I pour this, I could get on to our next topic, Beef, which is we're 2 weeks out from the trade deadline. Yeah. And this is an interesting year for the trade deadline because of a few things. One is that the playoffs have expanded. Yep. So there's an additional wild card, which leaves a little bit more room for teams to still be in the race, to be into the playoffs. And so let's take a look real quick at the standings. And these are the standings before tonight. I think the only games that had played when I did this was maybe the Pirates and Marlins. But it's a small, but you could see that really the only teams that are more than 4.5 games out of the wild card in either side is about 10 teams.
Yeah. And so in the AL, for the podcast listeners, in the AL, it's the Angels, Tigers, Royals, and A's that are more than 4.5 games out. It starts with the Angels are 8 out, and the rest are further back of the wild card. And then in the National League, you've got the Rockies being kind of the front runner, the furthest back there, or the closest back. That's kind of out of contention. There's 7 back: Diamondbacks, Pirates, Cubs, Reds, and Nationals that are kind of out of it. So those are like the 10 teams at this point, Treasy, that you'd forecast these are going to probably be the sellers.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things about those teams. One, like the Angels aren't looking to rebuild, right? They're in the midst of being supposed to be good. Right. And then there's some other teams that are at the bottom, let's say, of their rebuild where there's nothing left.
There's no pieces.
So like the Pirates are a good example of that. Like Jose Quintana is probably their best trade chip right now, unless they were going to trade someone who's going to be on the team for years, which they're probably not going to do. And then you start getting into some of these other teams. And so there's probably a real small concentration of the players that you would say, like, we need to go out and get this guy, right? And even within those, it's messy, right? Like, so the Cubs have Wilson Contreras, and Wilson Contreras is a great example because this guy's going to be a free agent. There's really nothing else for the Cubs to do. They could extend him or they can trade him. Those are really the two options at this point. So it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks that we're going to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But then they have guys like Ian Happ, who would be a great trade chip, would be a guy that would fit perfectly on the White Sox, but the White Sox couldn't possibly afford in trade capital.
Exactly. He's kind of like a bad defender everywhere, but he hits. So like every team can use that guy. Every team can use that guy.
But he's also got an RBR after this. So like
so there's some control.
If the Cubs don't get what they want, they can say, I'll wait till the offseason and then I can unload him then, or I can just hold on to him, or I can extend it. Right? There's a lot of optionality for these teams. And guys like Frankie Montas and Luis Castillo, who we're just assuming are going to be traded, are in that similar position. Right. Like, so there's a scenario where this trade deadline is horrible.
It's very quiet. Right. Well, another wrinkle to this, Treasy, is, as we mentioned, there's not a lot of sellers. They don't have a lot of quality product. Another wrinkle to this is the way the playoffs are set up now, the top 2 teams get a bye, right? In both leagues, the top 2 seeds are so far ahead of the 3rd division team. So in the American League coming into the night, the Yankees and Astros, so the Astros are a little worse than the Yankees right now, but the Astros are 9.5 games ahead of the Twins for that second spot. There's no competition there. So if you're gonna win a division there, you're not gonna get that second spot. You're not trading a big piece to try to get that second spot. You can't do it. In the National League, it's a little closer, but the Milwaukee Brewers are 6 back of the Mets, who are a little bit behind the Dodgers. Again, that's a big leap, and the bye matters a lot. It's kind of like moving towards more of an NFL style where getting that first round bye is huge. Just not because of anything other than you skip one round, you could be eliminated in that spot. Also, the division races, none of them are really tight. Here are the three teams coming into tonight, and the White Sox have moved in and become one of these teams. So now they're the fourth team in this group that are within 5 games of the division leader. The second place team that's within 5 games of the division leader, that is the Cardinals, Braves, and then the Guardians. And now the White Sox would be another one. So none of the division races are all that close either. So it's like a weird situation where you get there's a big pile of group that can go in the wild cards there, but what are you paying to try to get into that 3-game series,
Also, if you look at the teams coming into the wild card, you're looking, let's look at some teams like Baltimore, Seattle, Texas,
right,
Miami. I'll keep Seattle out of it because Seattle's going to trade. They're definitely going to trade around.
They'll do something.
Jerry Dipoto will make moves, but nothing probably a big splash. Just a lot of moves. But those teams are on their way up. They don't want to trade prospects, right? Like, so what moves are they gonna actually make here? It then kind of condenses down who is at the actual buyers, because you would think, oh, there's only 10 sellers. That means there's 20 buyers, and we're gonna have like just a bidding war. But it maybe not, right? Like, I mean, there's going to be some guys that teams are going to bid on, right? Like, there's going to be Frankie Montas. There's going to be Luis Castillo. Yeah. Wilson Contreras is definitely going to get a lot of attention. But the problem is, like, there's going to be scenarios where, like, someone goes out and goes, like, you know what? I'm going to get Wade Miley on the cheap, and and then they're not really in there anymore. Right, you're looking at teams like the Angels, and the Angels have very little to sell. Right, I mean, like, their most sellable piece is probably Noah Syndergaard, but he makes $21 million. Right, like, so what are you actually going to get for that? So, like, there's a lot of problems with a lot of these teams making trades at the deadline, and as we see, the Kansas City Royals can't really trade with the AL East. That's now out the window for them.
That's a limiting factor to them. And I just gotta say, Lil Yumper up in the comments, he did a super chat. And he's like, guessing MSS isn't on because he's doing research for naked HD links. I hope so. I hope he is. I mean, I would like to see him contribute a little more pornography to the show. He used to be a big JMac guy. And I haven't heard a JMac update in like 18 months, Treasy. I'm a little worried about MSS. Is he not in on JMac anymore? Does he not love JMac anymore?
It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. Beef. I'll tell you a team that I'm interested to see. One move that I'm interested to see is one Josh Bell, because I think we've looked at this a little bit, not from his standpoint, but we looked at. What if Jose Abreu were available, right? What if the Sox just went out? Like, let's say the Sox had just got swept by the Guardians, and now they lost tonight to the Twins, and we're like, this is over, right? Like, you're in that scenario, and you're going to look at trading Jose Abreu. I feel like we had some actual suitors that would be there for an Abreu. For sure. Josh Bell could be in that kind of category, and teams can use him in that way. And I think that's one of the guys that maybe is more valuable than I think in a normal offseason, in a normal trade deadline. So he's an interesting guy to me. And I think there's some teams that would definitely go after him. But what do you actually pay for a guy like that? Right? Like, I feel like it's still not going to be like a blockbuster unless there's multiple teams going after him. And then you kind of go like, well, they want a lot for Bell. CJ Cron's out there, and I got an extra year with him, and I don't really want that, but whatever. I could just dump him or whatever. And so, like, there's a lot of this kind of like middle of the road stuff, right? Like, if you're like Andrew Benintendi is a guy that's something, and it's like, well, someone could get like the slightly lighter version with Tyler Naquin. Right, like
yes, right.
There's just like
that costs almost nothing. That costs
there's a lot of mediocrity to be picked up that is just slightly worse than the guys that we're kind of looking at, going like, well, what about this guy? Like even on the Reds, like you're looking, Luis Castillo's your big guy, but someone might just be like, well, I'm more in the Tyler Mahle price range, right? Like,
for sure.
There's a lot of that there. And that's why I think that this trade deadline might just suck.
Well, it might suck for its initial hype, but when you think about, like, especially like the idea of it being a copycat league and teams try to follow what the good teams are doing. Remember what the Braves did last year? The Braves cast a wide net and they bought a bunch of stuff and they got some of it to work out really damn well for themselves. So it might be like a boring, hey, August 2nd when the Friday when the trade deadline's going down. Like last year was really exciting. We did a Spaces. Josh Nelson had us and a bunch of other people on there. We're talking about the transactions, everything. It might be boring from that standpoint, but maybe more exciting from seeing who pops up with the new team, who comes through when they get to that new team where they've been struggling throughout the year, and then boom, they got 2 good months, kill it, and help a team really ascend in the playoff race. I mean, that it might come to fruition kind of afterwards and not be like a fun deadline, but the aftermath might be a lot of fun.
No, I'm with you. I mean, like there's a lot of guys that can contribute on these teams, not on Oakland, but on other teams. There's guys who could contribute to your team, and it's a lot, but it's a lot of kind of mediocre guys, like just kind of middle of the road guys, but guys that are like 100 OPS.
You're leading a horse to water right now. Let me just tell you, what are you talking about that particularly?
Well, Beef, I do want to talk about what's some White Sox trade ideas. And I think this is, and I'll start this off by saying,
go for it.
I was looking around. Well, I'm going to let you go first, but I'm going to start this off by saying, I was looking around and I'm like, oh, who's plays second base for this team? Yeah, this would actually make sense for the Sox. Cesar Hernandez.
It actually is. It's kind of hilarious, right? You're not.
I was like,
do that in a million years.
I was like, they would never make this trade. They would never make this trade. But
I would really love Han if he was pretty good. You know
trade.
what? I'm trading for him again. Let's throw some more stuff out there for him. Get Cesar Hernandez.
He's gonna do one more. He's gonna do one more.
Absolutely. I love it. So my thoughts on the trade deadline, Treasy, is a lot of stuff you're mentioning right here. And the White Sox have a farm system that coming into the year was rated the worst kind of across the board. They've had some nice gains during the season, but I don't think the White Sox are in the position where they want to really trade any of those gains at the spot they're in right now. And the reason why is twofold. One, they're obviously not in a position where they're going to get a top 2 spot like we talked about earlier. They're kind of fighting in this thing. They're in the wild card race, and they're in the division race kind of fully. But I don't think they're ready to really make one of those big trades. I think when they get on the other side of like the middle of this contention window, which is like after 23, kind of like next year's trade deadline, I could see them making a real big move, like shoving the chips in because you're moving on to that next group where you kind of like guys are going to fall off. Abreu's out of contract. Grandal's out of contract after next year, so is Giolito. So I could see them trying to make a team shifting change. This year, I think it's kind of going to be small stuff. And I kind of like the bargain basement idea that you're talking about. What the White Sox need right now, in my personal opinion, they obviously need a bullpen arm. I'm not going down that path because it's infinite. They need anyone who can hit home runs. They need a power bat, and preferably a power bat that can play a corner outfield position. That's kind of what they need. This is what this roster needs. You're right. They need a second baseman, but I started seeing the same thing you're seeing, Trees, and thought to myself, they're not buying a second baseman. Josh Harrison's just going to play great defense at second. Let's find a corner outfielder. So I decided I'm going to pick guys that I think could definitely handle a corner outfield spot competently, and some of these guys can fake center field in a pinch. And that was kind of my criteria. And they have to be able to be a power hitter. I don't care if they're hitting right now. So here's my and the trade back is going to be something like a low 20s level team prospect, kind of arm guy. So I'm thinking like Cade McClure, Tanner McDougal level of player gets traded in this because you're not going to pay a lot for this player. So here's my couple guys. I got Randall Grichuk of Colorado. I don't know if he's still good.
Timmy hates him though. They will fight immediately.
He's got pop though, baby. All right, we might have to sacrifice it. They may have to brawl it out in the locker room.
Timmy's going to beat the shit out of him the moment he walks in the locker.
That's fine.
Which might be fine. That's the undercard. That's the undercard of the Ozzie Heyman fight.
That's it. Hey, get the bad blood out. Let's go. I got Trey Mancini from Baltimore.
I think Trey Mancini might fetch. I think he's in the Josh Bell category of like there's going to be teams that are like if he's out there, Houston's going to be interested. And
you might be right because
so
his numbers,
is Boston.
His numbers are being suppressed
by
by
that
them
field.
pushing the left field out. Yeah. So like I thought, maybe we could sneak in there on that guy. So you're right. You might be a little higher. Cole Calhoun, the Rangers, and Hunter Dozier.
Kenny always gets this guy.
And Hunter Dozier of the Royals are kind of these are corner outfielders. They could come here for 2 months and hit 10 home runs maybe. And this would be a real difference maker. The one other guy I had in here is kind of a wild card. He's not a power hitter. He's an extreme speed guy, but he's a terrific outfield defender. And I thought to myself, maybe you just buy this guy. He's not going to cost anything. And that's Michael Taylor, also from the Royals. Yeah, just buy a guy like that and let him be he's having his career year.
Taylor has, I think, another year or two on his contract. Another year, but it's only it's very cheap. It's a very cheap year.
They're not really that's not a long-term solution for them. They're happy to flip that guy and for not too much, So I think I see in the comments.
Couple comments. So Charlie Blackmon is a guy that I looked at. Now, here's the problem with Charlie Blackmon. If you look at his home and road splits, he only hits in Colorado, which is a red flag when you look at Colorado guys. Because I looked at a couple guys in Colorado because they're bad, so I want to get their guys. And Charlie Blackmon's a guy I've had my eye on for years because it kind of always fit, right? He's left-handed, he can play right field. Seems like a guy that the Sox want, and his right field is definitely degraded, but ours is terrible, so that's fine. But yeah, the concern would be, can he hit outside of Colorado?
And Treasy, those guys always get a little bump after they're out of Colorado. It's not the splits aren't true because obviously when you're in Colorado, you not only have the altitude and the power and all that extra stuff in the big field, but the breaking pitches don't break. And then when you go back on the road, it's it changes on you, right? But when you're not playing in Colorado, you kind of readjust. Some of those guys bounce back a little bit. So as long as it's not too terrible, maybe you got a shot there. Another suggestion from Chris McGowan.
I think he's just trolling me with the
Mike Moustakas.
Moustakas has been terrible, unfortunately. And that is a contract that I think that they would love to get rid of. So if he would have just even had an inkling of being a good player this year, that would be a guy that I'd be looking at the deadline. And this goes along with the thoughts on moving Pollock comment here. Is Pollock is not very good right now, so it's going to be hard to move him, and his contract makes him more difficult to move because it's his option. So basically, if the Sox do need to do something with him before the end of the year, because they can't possibly have him go, yes, I'm going to stay for $10 million. They need to just pay that $5 million go away, which I think would be more possible if he were on a different team, right? If you were to say, let's trade him in a Moustakas trade where that offsets some of the salary.
Right.
And then he's not going to play next year for the Reds. We know this, so he'll just take the $5 million. That's a way to do that. It's just I don't know what you're going to get back that's going to be helpful. It's almost worth it to take the risk on Pollock and say maybe he turns it around as opposed to
maybe he finds something here,
getting some different new thing that comes in. So that's where it gets difficult with him.
Yeah, I mean, our guy, Lil Yumper, is in there saying, look at Rafael Ortega from the Cubs. The problem with Ortega, this is another reason why I don't want Andrew Benintendi is because it's a similar type hitter of what we have where these guys are hitting a million singles. I don't want to put together an inning of 7 singles. What I want is a guy who hits the ball out of the ballpark, and Ortega's totally fine role player. That's kind of a nice player, but I specifically avoided those guys because I thought to myself, that's kind of the group we have right now. We have way too many of that, and we need more guys hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
Naquin and Peralta are in that.
Those guys, too, right? So I normally would like Peralta in this spot, but I think that the lack of power, to me, I knocked him out of that. And same thing with Naquin. You're right. I like those guys in general, and if we're having our normal type, a huge power season, for a White Sox team, those would be great ads. Right now, I need power hitters.
Speaking of great ads, we've got some good ads from these bots coming in all show. They're getting some really good trade ideas for us.
Hey, bots, smash the like button, please.
I know. I wish they would. You at least leave a comment. There's.
I'll trick them right now. I'll tell them to smash the lick button. They might do it.
So Beef, I was looking at it and I came to a similar conclusion because there's not much at second base, right? Like you can, I think one guy that you could possibly, so Tony Kemp is one guy that people have talked about. He's terrible. He's just having a horrible year. Yeah. He had an outlier year last year, and he's proving that it's an outlier this year. Jose Iglesias is still in the league, man, and like this guy is a great fielder. Yeah. You could probably put him at second and be fine. He has reverse splits in Colorado. He hits better away from Colorado, which is weird. So I don't know what I trust bizarre. There, but still, he's just kind of a slap header. Like he's whatever. Right, like so. I don't think that's making
doesn't move the needle. Right?
Like I'll stick with Josh Harrison, who's going to do kind of the same thing, And he's already here and he's free, right? Like he's just part of the team already.
Right.
The outfield, I was looking at the same stuff and like similar conclusions of who to go after. Then I thought about something. We're looking at this rotation, and if anything goes wrong, or if Kopech hits his innings limit.
Right.
If Lance Lynn starts to struggle more,
yep.
You've got Davis Martin and that's it.
That's it.
That's right. All you've got, and you got to put a lot of pressure on Davis Martin,
that's correct. Yeah.
I'm not sure he's ready to handle yet. And so the guy that I was looking at, which I think could be an interesting move because he's going to be a free agent, but he's expensive right now. The team is going to want to turn things around quickly. They might want like AAA level middle infield guys that might do the trick to do something like this. I'm going to say Noah Syndergaard.
Okay. All right.
Because he's not Noah Syndergaard from a few years ago. That you're like, yeah, Noah Syndergaard. No, he's lost a lot of velocity. He doesn't throw as hard as he used to. He's a different pitcher. But Beefy's what we were talking about earlier. He's become an actual pitcher. Right, like he's pitching a different game now, and it's kind of antithetical to what the Sox do. Right, that's why Johnny Cueto is such a difference in this rotation, is because everyone else is. I throw 98 miles per hour and then I throw a slider, or I throw 98 miles per hour and I throw a changeup, and that's all I do. And with the exception of Dylan Cease, let's not barrel him in there. But
right, exactly.
But there's no kind of difference, and the bullpen does the same thing as those guys, which makes it even more redundant. And so to have someone who does a little bit different stuff, who's a little bit more of a finesse pitcher now, which is weird to hear that Noah Syndergaard
is that guy, right?
More of a finesse guy now. Like I think that could be an interesting addition to the rotation, and I think if the Sox were willing to do it and go 6-man for a little while, it could save innings on a lot of these guys who are either very young or very old, right? Like you've got those two. You've got Cueto and Lynn at one end of it, and you've got Cease and Kopech at the other, where you're like, okay, well, let's not burn these guys out if we're going to make the playoffs. And I think a sixth pitcher would be helpful in that. And if anything goes wrong, now you've got a normal 5-man rotation, and you can feel good about it. I'm just not sure of the actual price of Syndergaard. I don't know how much the Angels care about carrying this money.
Right.
Like a normal team would be like, oh, let's just get rid of this $10 million. But I feel like the Angels, I don't know, if Mickey Mouse is kicking them money in the back or what. And that's the only thing that kind of like trips up this trade. Like, I don't know if they would have the trade capital to actually do it, or if there's other teams interested in him. And that's another piece of this is like, are there teams that are going to go after him at the deadline? I'm sure teams will sniff around it, but how much do you actually want to give up for him?
Right. Now, and just looking up his stats right now, he's like perfectly, beautifully league average. He has like a 4 ERA flat. He's worth
his ERA plus is like 99 or something, right?
He's worth a single win. Like it's like we're right at the middle of the year. The perfect 2-WAR pitcher. Like that's kind of what he is. You're right, and he's settled in there, and he's been durable. I mean, he's made 14 starts, so like it's not like the years he's terrific. Then he's injury prone. He can't answer the bell. He's doing just fine. I kind of like this idea, especially because like it's like a distressed sale here. Like I I see what you're saying about maybe they don't care about holding the salaries, but I think they would like to cut bait on what they could, knowing that
like everyone everyone will take $10 million.
Everyone will take $10 million because you got to use that next year's payroll, right? And they still have like terrific pieces that's always filling in around the sides. They got the superstars right now. They got to fill in around the sides. They're not. It's a 1-year deal. They're not holding on to Syndergaard. You might as well get some flyer for him and get rid of the money. Like, so it's kind of an interesting, and I don't know if there are teams out there who think, well, if I get my hands on Noah Syndergaard, I can do X with him. Or if there's teams thinking, I don't know how many innings Noah Syndergaard can throw this year. So if he's already at 70, let's see, he's at 74 and a third, maybe I don't want to buy him because he's only going to throw 140 or something like that because he's just coming off the injury. I have no idea, but I love the idea of, like, let's take a shot at something like this, like in the middle of the market.
It's kind of low risk, right? It's replacing Vince Velasquez, basically. That's what you would be doing, right? Like, so, it's a pretty low risk to do something like this. Beef, I'll leave you with the craziest idea I had when I looked at all this stuff.
Let's hear it.
And I think this doesn't really work, but it'd be fun. Is 2 injured guys getting traded for one another, and we trade Garrett Crochet for John Means. Now, John Means probably has the longer road to recovery.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, hey, that could be. It could either be something or absolutely nothing, and on both sides, it's a huge risk for both sides to make this trade. But feels like if Jerry DiPoto was involved in this, unfortunately, we could get it done. But I don't think we're going to quite get there.
That's unfortunate.
I kind of do want to. I do want to write a blog maybe on what the Orioles and Mariners might do down the trade deadline, because I think that the Orioles are one of the more interesting teams because they are very much in the wild card race, which is wild. It's just a wild thing to think about. But they were a team that I think we were all depending on to contribute to the selling in this market.
Right.
And now that they might possibly even be buyers is just an interesting scenario. And my goodness, how is Rougned Odor still on the team? But Beef, I think we could cut it here unless you had another beautiful White Sox trade you wanted to come up with, because they are hard to come by.
I've got no more rundown corner outfielders that I could bring to you. So I'm sorry.
There's not much out there, but I think the trade deadline is going to be interesting. It might suck, though. Let's just be prepared for that.
It might be terrible, yes.
Beef, it's time, as always, for the thank yous. Give me your thank yous.
Oh, I got to thank all the people that bought tickets for North Loop Galley that we're going to see on Saturday. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone who goes up to Minneapolis. So I want to thank all of you who make these road trips so possible. Like the trip we did last year to Milwaukee, about 500 people hit the tailgate. It's ridiculous how Sox fans travel, how we stick together, and Sox Twitter really loves to hang out with each other. It's just good to press the flesh with all of you. Hopefully no one gets COVID.
That's a big hope. My thank yous are the same. I want to thank everyone who's going to come out to this weekend, and for all you who cannot make the trip, we can't wait to see you at the stadium the following weekend, because we'll be back, and I can't wait for the All-Star game to be over and for us to get back in the stadium and see some actual baseball. But Beef, it was a fun one tonight. Right after the game, we're running towards the end of the night, but that's fine. We got tomorrow off. We got things to do though, so we'll see everyone either up in Minnesota or at the park very soon. Thanks a lot, everyone.